Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa. Today is Saturday, April 18th. It's been 3 days since my last show. I was busy, actually feeling pretty good. I was doing a lot of yard work. This would be episode 53. For all my new viewers, welcome. And those that have subscribed, which I ask anyone who's watching this, please subscribe, leave comments. Very important to the algorithm. It's a conservative-leaning podcast, but I do look at both sides of an argument. I mostly deal with things happening, of course, on the federal level because that affects everyone. State issues, there are some that I do get involved with when I make a comment, but for the most part, it's federal. I just want to make just a little side note on what I had reported on the 15th, April, about Judge Boasberg getting his comeuppance by the appellate court. I had a chance to think about it and actually speak with some people online that are Democrats, moderate Democrats, that I am friendly with, and we have very nice conversations offline. And they struck upon something that I really hadn't thought in the context of what the judge's job is to do. And if the judge makes a ruling, and mostly one as serious as, finding out who broke his rules, which is a contempt charge. If that judge doesn't have the power to impanel an investigation or to investigate through whatever resources they have that are legal, what power does a judge have over an overreach of either side? So it made me stop for a minute to think about the investigation. Now, of course, the District Court of Appeals said that the Court of Appeals said that he overreached. He was vague in what he was really looking at. That the federal government had the right to move detainees around and deport. They had that right. And that his order of, almost like a cease and desist, order, you can't do that, you can't move, went beyond the scope of what he was allowed to do. And then the investigation, then there's no need for an investigation. That's a two-edged sword. So I just wanted to say, after thinking about it, I'm not happy about the whole situation. It made me reflect and think, there's a broader picture in that whole process. So, all right. Today, I'm going to be talking about the waste of time of the Democrats Basically, Jamie Raskin, congressman, who is fighting and pushing legislation to change the 25th Amendment, how it is executed, and who can execute it, and what is in order where they can force the president to have a mental competency exam and everything else. That would have been nice if they would have tried that when Biden was in office. And everyone was saying he's having real problems, and even a lot of Democrats sitting there saying, yeah, he was having problems, and no one was addressing it. It just seems interesting that, all of a sudden now with Trump, we got to do this. And it's a true waste of time. The Democrats have just been wasting time. And I don't think they understand that while they are going low, Trump is doing everything he said he was going to do. And the politicians that are now running against these Democrats and challenging them, or are being challenged by the Democrats in their state, are going to have a very hard time overcoming voter sentiment. So, their feelings on everything that's been going on. You have the 90% of America didn't want a war with Iran. I might agree with the philosophy that, yeah, war is bad. No one wants to see it happen. But you ask just about every American that it doesn't have blue hair or their hair in a bun, what they think about Iran, and that Iran has to go. The regime has to go. They don't have a problem with it. Yes, we knew, well, I don't know if people really understood what was going to happen. The price of fuel went up, even though we're not dependent on any of the fuel coming out of the Middle East. Not dependent on it at all. And there are people saying, well, then why did our gas prices go through the ceiling? Well, you have places like California that you can't take oil and gasoline from Louisiana and bringing it into the state of California. You can't do it. It's the California says, nope, you're not allowed to do that. It's either made here or we import it in from, Southeast Asia, which is crazy world. But that is one of the major problems that California faces, and any state that was being supplied by California for fuel. The refineries left California, just like many businesses are leaving California. They just can't. They can't afford the state. They can't afford. They could afford paying their employees lots of money, but they couldn't afford the fines that anytime California wanted money, let's find a business. Let's go after them. Let's do that. And it gets to the point where they just go, we're not gonna do business here. We'll move somewhere else. And you're having many, many businesses that, big employers that are moving out of California. And because the Democrats there are just anti-business. And they don't care these businesses move out and those people leave, they get to fill that void with illegals that they'll put on the voting rolls. That's what their goal is to do, put them on the voting rolls. So the Democrats have no dog in the fight. They don't. They don't care about the voters that are leaving because those were basically Republican voters anyway, so let them go. But now, the people that are left there are paying, $9 or $8 or $7 a gallon for gas because the state tax is so high. And now there's a road usage tax coming on top of that, where a mileage tax. You have to register your car every year. You have to give a mileage. You got to take it into a station. They record it. They send it into motor vehicle, and you get taxed accordingly. How many people do you think are going to stay for that in a state that mass transit, for the most part, really doesn't exist enough to the outlying areas? I mean, California, you take a look at Los Angeles, it's huge. San Francisco, you have, BART and everything else there, but not to the extent that you could, bring people in from 25 miles, 30, 40, 50 miles. You come into New York, and you can get from the end of Long Island into Manhattan on one train. You have trains running all day, all night. You have a road system. You have bridges. You have a bus system. You have rapid rail right into the heart of Manhattan. And you have a surface transportation, which is a wonderful system. California doesn't have that. So what do most people have to do? They got to drive. Well, the state goes, we'd love to have a mass transit system. No, they wouldn't. That's the biggest lie. They spent how many billions so they're going to have a high-speed rail from California to Las Vegas. That was their big plan. I mean, that's going to solve their problem. And that thing's been a bucket to steal money from since its inception. So, the Democrats are just wasting time. They're wasting time in every blue state. They're wasting their time with the 25th Amendment that Jamie Raskin wants to do that will never pass. But they get to say, well, we're trying to stop. How about fixing the problems that are there right now? The budget, immigration, infrastructure. Let's see them do something with that. They're just wasting time, and it's a valuable time. And the media is behind the Democrats pushing. You see that on every, you go on MS Now, you go on MSN.com, you go on CNN.com. And all you see is everything anti-Trump. Anything that could be anti-Trump gets top billing. I mean, I won't even talk about Yahoo News, which is a joke. But they push it, and these places have a lot of eyeballs. You listen. You had an election where, 46% voted for Harris, and 48.9% voted for Trump. So the liberals, I don't even say Democrats anymore because I don't know what a Democrat is. When the Democrats can explain to me what a woman is, then they can explain to me what a Democrat is. All right? So let's go there. The waste of time that's going on in Congress is appalling. There is, I see it online too, talk about Fetterman jumping ship. I don't think Fetterman will do that. Push comes to shove, he might. And he'd get he'd be much better off. Well, he wouldn't be better off going as an independent because you just don't get the money. You could be like Bernie Sanders and goes around and collects, lots of quarters and lots of dollar bills, and that adds up. Love Bernie, hate Bernie. The guy knows how to go out there and get the money, and he's very successful at it. Elizabeth Warren, Nancy Pelosi. She could deliver money to the DNC. She could deliver money on her own. So the DNC, your Jeffries, your Schumers, your Raskins, your Pelosi's, it's all a waste of time. They're just wasting time. And, they want to fight with the president about the war in Iran. And again, I'm blending in two things, but they all lead to the same place. It's a waste of time for the Democrats. You see on some, I think Yahoo had it, or MSN.com, our troops are going hungry because there's no food for them. What are they talking about? A ship ran out of peanut butter or something, but there's plenty of food. There's nothing. No one is going hungry. You used to have, K rations and C rations. Now you have MREs. That's the worst thing our troops would have to face. In many cases, you got to go to the meals ready to eat. So, but they push this as like it is a major problem. No, it's not. There was no plan of an attack on Iran. This was just willy-nilly. No, the military had those plans for years in their back pocket. They had them under Biden. They had them under Trump the first. They had them under Obama. What the military response and how we would respond if necessary. Our military is just not sitting there waiting for something to happen. Our military is there looking for something to happen. Not waiting, looking. Constant, vigilant. And to have the media behind these progressives, I can't even call them Democrats. I can't even call them liberals. They're progressives that just want to tear down everything. They want to tear our fabric, our Constitution. And it doesn't work for us anymore. What do you mean it doesn't work for you anymore? Well, Trump hasn't changed anything. There's been no change of any of the language inside the Constitution. Under Obama, under Biden, under Trump, nothing's changed. Well, he appointed, those conservatives to the Supreme Court. Yeah, he did. And Obama and Biden, they got their picks too. That's the way that works. And these are lifetime appointments. You might not like how that works, but that's the way it works, folks. None of that has changed. Not a thing. You got 9 justices. Nothing has changed. No word in this Constitution has changed. Not one word. Not one period. Not one comma. Not one comma. Comma has changed. Comma has changed. The screaming from the left. Our rights are being taken away from us. No rights have been taken away from anyone. They have it. Well, Roe v. Wade. No, your state can pass legislation. And they have. And again, that's not good enough. No. That doesn't count. We had it under the federal. Yeah, it should never have been there. And even Justice Ginsburg had said Roe v. Wade was really bad law and was destined to come back to it. And that's exactly what happened. They knew it. You just had to get the people in there that were willing to fight for it. There you go. That's the way we work. And it's not a democracy. We are not a democracy, folks. We are a republic with democratic principles. But we are nowhere near a democracy. A democracy, as I've stated before, is a mob rule. We do not. We vote people in to represent us, be them red, be them blue, whoever they are at that time. Those are the people that represent everyone. And I have a problem with Democrats. I have a problem with Republicans that seem, well, some of them seem to feel that they don't represent, they only represent their base, people that, voted for them. Well, I'm a Republican. This is not a Republican area over here. No. You represent everyone. The president represents everyone. Now, the president gets elected, and I've said this before, the president is a cheerleader. He gets, or if it ever happens, she gets, not using proper nouns here, but just saying we could have a female president, that can happen. So when the president gets there, he gets his agenda. Because that's what got him elected. Now, if the houses go with him or her, that's a big deal. Now, in the Senate, you need more than 50% plus one. You got to carry 60. And that's the filibuster rule. And that was never meant to be that way. That was a change that they made, and it should be out. If you want to have a democracy using republic protocols, then it's 50 plus 1. Now, in the Senate, because, if you have the House and then you'd have almost a rubber stamp, and I get that. I understand the issue at hand with that. Right now, it would be wonderful for the Republicans, but it didn't last for the Democrats. It doesn't last for the Republicans. So you have to have something in there to kind of balance it. So, you have Republicans, we'll go after the filibuster. And then you had Democrats, we'll go after the filibuster. And we'll go after the... Yeah, that never happens. Everyone's happy with the way it is right now and works. Because it forces you to have bipartisan. You have to have so much of the other team. Now, this changes is if you get more independents in there. Then that's a unknown quantity and an unknown equation. You can say, hey, this guy, we've talked to him and they seem to understand where we're going here. But now you have a third element. And remember, the monsters must be fed. So it has to be something in it for them. The waste of time that's going on is terrible. Terrible. Waste of time by the Democrats. Instead of working with them, they're just fighting them tooth and nail. And again, like I said, the Democrats, you lost in 2024 because America as a whole felt that maybe you're a little bit too far left. So what do? In 2026, they go even farther left. And like I said, it makes no sense. And you had moderates that I always said that, Schumer was a moderate. He knew how to walk the aisle, both sides, shook hands on both sides. And that's gone. We've lost moderates. We've lost them in the Republican Party, but there's still a lot of common sense there. I just can't find a lot of Democrats that have that common sense. There are some, absolutely, there are some Democrats that have common sense, and others that have just drank the Kool-Aid and have gone over the edge. And I can't see the Democrats winning in 2026. Any Democrat or any Democrat that has any common sense would tell you that, fraud is wrong and should be gone after. We need a budget that addresses the concerns that the Congresses have. And any party going forward in 2028 having a defanged Iran can only help them. And the Democrats don't have to go hand in hand strolling, through the park with the Republicans on the war in Iran. But they can cautiously support them. They should cautiously support the President of the United States in this endeavor. And I'm not saying, hey, we just sign off on anything you want. No. But you could cautiously do that without, saying, we need the 25th Amendment. And, because he got up there and said, I'm going to destroy a culture here. I'm going to destroy a culture. He goes, if I got to go over there and do that, that won't be the same Iran. He's not lying. He's just saying that's what it will take. And he doesn't want to do that. And, now I'm going into, what's going on in Iran. Do you think for a second that Trump trusts Iran? That Iran will keep to the negotiated settlements? No, because they've never done it, and they're not doing it now. There were attacks from Lebanon today that killed Israelis. And just the other day, hey, we got an agreement not to do that, and Israel might have been put out a little bit, but they had to be in every part of that negotiations. And I say this because the Democrats are screaming how Israel is steering the United States. Well, if Israel is steering the United States, then they certainly knew about a brokered deal that the United States was having with Lebanon to end the attacks coming from Lebanon into Israel. Unless the Democrats are wrong, the progressives and liberals, and I keep having to correct myself because there are no more Democrats anymore. They're all progressives, for the most part, the majority. They sit there quietly, not saying anything. That's consent through a nonverbal consent. So the idea that Trump is so naive that he will believe the Iranians, what he's doing is going to tell the American public, listen, you know why we went in there. It's not, I shouldn't even have to discuss why. Everyone knows why. But I gave the Iranians 2 weeks. I didn't have to give them anything. I could have just bombed Karg Island and you attack, we'll find out where you are. We're not going anywhere that, we're going to be there. Israel will go after you, and these other little groups that you were feeding and doing, they die on the vine. Well, the Hutus still, yeah, because they have a crap load of weapons that were given to them by Iran. They still have them. So they are a threat. But what I said, the other side of the coin, flip side, is that if you take out all the command structures in Iran and their top leadership, who's there then to cut the deal? And who's there that the Hutus and Hamas and Hezbollah are going to listen to? Because before that, those people had the juice. You want money, you want arms, you want this. You got to do 60% of what I want you to do. Or 75% of what I want you to do. You're going to kiss the ring here, and you're going to do it. Now, they might not have those people there that have a relationship with these other groups, that have a spokesperson, that they had in people. So now these people are kind of rogue, and that has to be thought of and looked at and expected. So in that sense, I would question, hey, when you were taking all these people out, the people that you want in, you kind of let them know that, they're going to be okay, right? They're not going to get blown up tomorrow, right? Because there's got to be someone to take over the reins there. Unless it's unconditional surrender, which, Trump, of course, wanted. Every armed camp wants to be victorious and my rules or no rules. So I have no problem with that. That's just the way things are done. But if you don't have those people where you can then come in and go, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. If you do this, we can kind of work together here. But if we don't have that, then you're going to have an Iraq. You're going to have an Afghanistan. You're going to have this stuff. And it just doesn't work. Look at Libya. So you got to be real careful. And in that sense, that there has to be some type of system in place for that. That's been accounted for. All right, I'm going to end this in about 5 minutes. I appreciate everyone that has stayed this long with me. Just sticking around. I doubt if I'll do something on Sunday. It's the only reason I'm doing something today is because it's newsworthy. It's newsworthy. There's a lot going on. Of course, you had Iran saying they're going to close the Strait down again, and that, you had a couple of their boats. My problem is, why do they even have boats? And you can't have a ceasefire if they come out there and start shooting at boats. And again, this could be a command and control issue that Iran is having. These are the guys that say we're in charge, but are they really in charge? You have the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps that's still in fighting shape. They might not have a lot to fight with, but they got all the guns aimed at the people. That's power. I could lead through cake, or I can lead by putting bayonets in their backs. I'm leading. So that is something that I hope we've looked at. I mean, I know I think that way, and I'm sure I'm not the 250-watt light bulb, but I'm also not a 10-watt bulb. Dim bulb. All right. And I think I'm a lot smarter politically than Bob in New York. No, I'm only kidding, Bob. You're a pretty wise fellow. All right. With that, I'm going to ask everyone, please think about giving to a charity. Charities need help. They help a lot of people. But I can understand your reluctance to do it. Don't become a victim trying to help victims. Make sure it's a real charity. You go to them, they don't come to you. If you're not comfortable with that, please think about donating to a food bank. Money is always good for a food bank because they could use that to immediately address a situation that they're facing. Food, of course, is always welcomed. Say a prayer. Prayer does work, no matter what a Democrat might tell you. And with that, I'm right at the 40-minute mark or so. I'm going to say thank you. I'm not going out tonight, so you never know. If something big happens, I might do a show, but don't know. And with that, thank you as I fade to